I'm Jeremy Grantham. I'm 86 years old, and I've spent over 50 years studying market bubbles, economic cycles, and how wealth is actually built. I predicted the dot-com crash in 2000. I warned about the housing bubble before 2008. And today, with over $100 billion under management at my firm, I'm going to tell you something that might upset you. You're not poor because of bad luck. You're not poor because the economy is rigged. You're poor because of 5 specific habits you repeat every single day. And those habits are destroying your financial future faster than any recession ever could. Back in 1969, when I started in the investment business, I lost nearly everything I had in my first market downturn. I thought I was smart. I had studied at Cambridge, worked at prestigious firms, analyzed thousands of companies, and yet I watched my savings evaporate in weeks because I was doing 5 things that guaranteed failure. I was following the same patterns that keep most people broke their entire lives, and it wasn't until I recognized these patterns and brutally eliminated them that everything changed. That was 55 years ago, and since then I've watched these same 5 habits destroy more wealth than every stock market crash combined. I've seen brilliant people stay poor. I've seen hard-working people retire with nothing, and every single time it comes down to these 5 habits. So if you're watching this and you're struggling financially, if you're working hard but staying broke, if you're wondering why everyone else seems to be getting ahead while you're stuck, this might be the most important thing you hear all year. Because I'm not going to sugarcoat this. These 5 habits are killing you. And if you don't change them right now, in 5 years, you'll be in exactly the same place or worse. Let's start with habit number 1, and this is the big one. You're spending money to signal status you don't have. Let me tell you what I see every single day. People driving $50,000 cars while living in rented apartments. People wearing $300 sneakers while having $47 in their checking account. People financing furniture, watches, phones, vacations, all so they can look successful to people who don't actually care about them. This is the single biggest wealth destroyer in America today, and here's what makes it so devastating. When you spend money to look rich, you guarantee you'll stay poor, because real wealth is invisible. I know billionaires who drive 15-year-old cars. I know people worth $50 million who buy their clothes at regular department stores. And I know broke people who look like millionaires until you check their bank account and find nothing but debt. The mathematics are brutal. If you're making $50,000 a year and spending $48,000 trying to look like you make $80,000, you're destroying your future at a rate of $48,000 per year. Over 10 years, that's $480,000 you didn't save. That's not counting what that money could have become if you invested it. At a conservative 7% annual return, that $2,000 per year saved becomes $30,000 in 10 years. But you don't have it because you spent it on a car lease and clothes nobody remembers and restaurants that didn't change your life. And the truly insidious part is this. The more you spend signaling status, the more you have to keep spending. Because once you start, you can't stop without admitting the whole thing was fake. So you're trapped. You're spending money you don't have to impress people you don't like so you can maintain an image that's bankrupting you. I see this everywhere. Young professionals making $60,000 living like they make $120,000. Spending $1 in $500 a month on rent they can't afford because the building has a nice lobby. Spending $400 a month on a car payment because their coworkers have nice cars. Spending $200 a month eating at trendy restaurants because that's what successful people do. And at the end of the month, they have nothing. $0 saved, $0 invested, 0 progress toward actual wealth. They're on a treadmill, running faster and faster while staying in exactly the same place. If this resonates with you, hit that like button right now. Because what I'm about to tell you is going to challenge everything you think about money. Habit number 2, you're avoiding discomfort at all costs. And this one destroys more potential wealth than almost anything else. Let me explain what I mean. Every single day, you make small decisions to avoid temporary discomfort. You're tired after work, so you order takeout instead of cooking. That's $20. You don't feel like packing lunch, so you buy it. That's $15. You're stressed, so you buy something online to feel better. That's $40. Your apartment is a little warm, so you blast the air conditioning instead of opening a window. That's an extra $30 on your power bill. None of these decisions feel significant in the moment. But here's the math. $20 3 times a week on takeout is $60 per week. That's $3,120 per year. $15 per day on lunch is $75 per week. $3,900 per year. $40 per week on comfort purchases is $2,080 per year. That's $9,100 per year you're spending to avoid minor discomfort. And that's a conservative estimate. Most people spend far more. Now let me show you what $9,100 per year actually means. If you're 30 years old and you invest $9,100 per year until you're 65 at a 7% return, that becomes $1.1 million. You're trading $1.1 million in retirement wealth for the temporary comfort of not having to cook your own meals. That's the real cost. But nobody thinks about it this way. They think, it's just $20. It's just one meal. Everybody does it. I work hard, I deserve to treat myself. And that thinking is why they're broke. Because wealthy people understand something that poor people don't. Discomfort is temporary. Broke is forever. When I was starting out, I lived in a terrible apartment. I cooked every meal. I never ate out. I wore the same cheap clothes for years. Was it uncomfortable? Yes. Did I care? No. Because I understood that 5 years of discomfort would give me 50 years of freedom. And that's exactly what happened. But most people won't make that trade. They prioritize comfort today over wealth tomorrow. And then they wonder why they're still broke at 50. Let me be very direct about something. If you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you're not going to be wealthy. It's that simple. Building wealth requires doing things you don't want to do. Saving when you want to spend. Working when you want to relax. Learning when you want to watch TV. Investing when you want to buy something fun. Every single wealthy person I know made this trade early. They chose discomfort when they were young so they could have comfort when they were old. Poor people do the opposite. They choose comfort when they're young and end up forced into discomfort when they're old, working jobs they hate because they can't afford to retire. That's the choice. Temporary voluntary discomfort now, or permanent forced discomfort later. There's no third option. Habit number 3, you're waiting for perfect conditions before you start. This might be the most expensive habit on this entire list. I cannot tell you how many people I've met who are waiting to start investing. They're waiting for the market to crash so they can buy low. They're waiting until they have more money saved. They're waiting until they understand everything perfectly. They're waiting until their debt is paid off. They're waiting until they get that promotion. They're waiting until next year. And while they wait, they stay poor. Because perfect conditions never come, there's always a reason to wait. The market is too high. The market is too volatile. The economy is uncertain. There's an election coming. There's inflation. There's a war somewhere. There's always something. And if you wait for all the risks to disappear, you will wait your entire life and end up with nothing. Let me tell you what actually happens. The people who wait for perfect conditions are still waiting 20 years later. Still broke. Still looking for the right moment. Still convinced that soon, very soon, everything will line up perfectly and then they'll start. Meanwhile, the people who started with imperfect conditions, who invested when they didn't fully understand it, who began with small amounts, those people are wealthy now. I started investing in 1969. The market crashed in 1970. Was that perfect timing? No. Did I stop? No. I kept investing through the crash, through the 1970s stagflation, through every recession and crisis since then. And that's why my firm manages over $100 billion today. Because I didn't wait. Here's what I need you to understand. Starting with $100 per month right now is infinitely better than waiting until you can invest $500 per month someday. Because someday never comes. But if you start with $100 today, in 1 year you have $1,200 invested. In 5 years, with compound returns, you have over $7,000. In 10 years, you have over $17,000. The person who waited for perfect conditions still has zero. They're still waiting, still planning, still preparing, still broke, and the gap between you and them grows every single month. This applies to everything. Starting a side business, learning a new skill, changing careers. Every day you wait is a day you don't grow. Every month you delay is a month you stay broke. Perfect conditions are a fantasy. The right time is now. The right amount is whatever you have. The right moment is this one. Let me ask you something honest. What's the real reason you're still broke? Is it because you don't earn enough, or because you're trapped in patterns you're too scared to break? If you're tired of lying to yourself about why nothing changes, comment your biggest financial struggle below and finish with, "But I will win this fight." Sometimes seeing the truth in writing is the first step toward actually fixing it. Habit number 4, you're following advice from broke people. This sounds harsh, but it's absolutely critical. Most of the financial advice you've received in your life came from people who are not wealthy. Your parents, unless they were rich, taught you how to be as broke as they are. Your friends, unless they're wealthy, are teaching you their broke habits. Your coworkers, unless they're financially independent, are reinforcing the same patterns that keep everyone poor. And you're listening to them because they're familiar, because you trust them, because it feels safe. But here's the problem. Broke people give broke advice. They tell you to buy a house, because that's what you're supposed to do, even though they're drowning in mortgage debt. They tell you to lease a new car every 3 years because you deserve something nice, even though they're spending 40% of their income on car payments. They tell you investing is too risky, even though they have no retirement savings and no plan. They tell you to enjoy life while you're young, even though they're 55 and terrified about money. This is how poverty perpetuates itself. Generation after generation following the same bad advice, making the same mistakes, ending up in the same broke position, and then passing that wisdom down to the next generation. The average American believes you need a 20% down payment to buy a house. That's not true. FHA loans require 3.5% down, but nobody knows this because their broke parents told them you need 20% and they never questioned it. So they save for 10 years trying to get to 20% while renting and building zero equity, when they could have bought years earlier. That bad advice cost them tens of thousands of dollars. Most people believe investing is gambling. They think the stock market is just rich people's casino. This is completely wrong. Over any 20-year period in history, the U.S. stock market has never had a negative return. Never. If you invested consistently for 20 years, you made money. Every single time. But broke people don't know this, so they tell their kids that investing is dangerous and their kids stay broke too. Here's what you need to do. Stop taking financial advice from anyone who isn't wealthy. I don't care if it's your parents. I don't care if it's your best friend. If they're broke, their advice will keep you broke. Instead, learn from people who have actually built wealth. Read books by investors who made billions. Study the habits of self-made millionaires. Listen to people who have what you want, not people who are stuck where you are. Subscribe to this channel if you want strategies based on 50 years of real market experience. I share one major wealth principle every week, habit number 5, and this is the one that ties everything together. You're confusing income with wealth. This is the most dangerous habit on this list because it feels like success while actually guaranteeing failure. Let me explain. I know people making $200,000 per year who are broke. I know people making $50,000 per year who are millionaires. The difference isn't what they earn. It's what they keep. Income is what comes in. Wealth is what stays. And most people spend their entire lives chasing higher income while their wealth stays at zero because every time they earn more, they spend more. This is called the hedonic treadmill, and it's why doctors and lawyers and executives end up with nothing despite earning millions over their careers. Here's how it works. You're making $40,000 per year. You're living in a small apartment, driving an old car, living paycheck to paycheck. Then you get a promotion. Now you're making $60,000. And what do most people do? They immediately upgrade their life. Bigger apartment, nicer car, better restaurants, more vacations. Their spending goes from $38,000 per year to $58,000. They're still broke, they just have nicer stuff. Then they get another promotion. Now they're making $80,000. So they buy a house, lease a luxury car, join a gym, get a country club membership. Spending goes to $78,000. Still broke. Just deeper in lifestyle inflation. This pattern continues forever, making $100,000, spending $97,000. Making $150,000, spending $147,000. Making $200,000, spending $195,000. And at the end, after 30 years of climbing the income ladder, they have nothing. Because income doesn't build wealth. Savings build wealth. And they never saved because they confused earning with keeping. Let me show you the math on what this costs. Person A makes $50,000 per year and saves $10,000. Person B makes $100,000 per year and saves $5,000. Who becomes wealthy? Person A. Because after 20 years at a 7% return, Person A has $437,000. Person B has $219,000. Person A, who earned half as much, ends up with twice the wealth because they kept more of what they earned. This is why I know 50-year-old doctors who can't retire and 50-year-old teachers who are financially free. The doctor earned $5 million over their career and spent $4.8 million. The teacher earned $1.5 million and spent $1 million. The teacher has $500,000 saved. The doctor has $200,000 and a lot of expensive stuff they can't sell for what they paid. Here's what you need to understand. Your goal is not to earn more money. Your goal is to keep more money. And keeping money requires something most people won't do. It requires you to live below your means permanently, not temporarily. Not until you hit some arbitrary income level. Permanently. If you make $50,000, live on $40,000. If you make $100,000, live on $75,000. If you make $200,000, live on $140,000. The gap between what you earn and what you spend is the only number that matters. That gap is your wealth-building machine. Everything else is just noise. And here's the part nobody wants to hear. That gap doesn't get easier to maintain as you earn more. It gets harder, because the more you make, the more people expect you to spend. Your family expects gifts. Your friends expect you to pick up the check. Your neighbors expect you to keep up. The pressure to spend increases faster than your income increases. So if you don't set a rule right now, today, that you will always live below your means no matter how much you earn, you will end up like everyone else. High income, zero wealth, trapped on the treadmill until you die. Share this with one person who needs to hear it. Sometimes the best thing you can do is give someone information that changes their trajectory. Now let me tell you what happens if you don't fix these 5 habits. If you keep spending money to signal status you don't have, in 10 years you'll still be broke, but with more expensive stuff. If you keep avoiding discomfort, in 10 years you'll have spent $100,000 buying temporary relief and you'll have nothing to show for it. If you keep waiting for perfect conditions, in 10 years you'll still be waiting, and the people who started today will be financially independent. If you keep following advice from broke people, in 10 years you'll be exactly as broke as they are. And if you keep confusing income with wealth, you'll spend your entire career earning money and end your career with nothing. That's your future if nothing changes. But here's the other path. If you fix these habits right now, today, everything changes. You stop signaling status, and suddenly you have $500 per month to invest. That's $6,000 per year. In 10 years at 7%, that's $87,000. You embrace discomfort and save another $700 per month by cooking at home and cutting unnecessary spending. That's $8,400 per year. In 10 years, that's another $123,000. You start investing today instead of waiting, even if it's just $100 per month. In 10 years, that's $17,000. You stop listening to broke people and start learning from wealthy people. That changes every financial decision you make for the rest of your life, and you focus on keeping money instead of just earning it. Every raise you get, every bonus, every extra dollar, you save it instead of spending it. Do you see what just happened? In 10 years, by fixing these 5 habits, you go from zero to over $225,000 in actual wealth. Not in stuff, not in a nicer car or a bigger apartment, in money, in investments, in freedom. That's the difference. 5 habits, 5 choices. And your entire financial future changes. But you have to decide right now. Because 5 years from now, you're going to wish you started today. And 10 years from now, you'll either thank yourself for making the change, or you'll hate yourself for wasting another decade. I'm 86 years old. I've been studying this for over 50 years. And I'm telling you with absolute certainty, these 5 habits are the difference between wealth and poverty. They're the difference between freedom and being trapped. They're the difference between a life where money serves you and a life where you serve money. So which future do you want? Because the choice is yours, but the window is right now. Drop a comment telling me which habit you're breaking first. Subscribe so we keep building wealth together. And if this helped you see what's really been holding you back, hit like and share it with someone who needs it. I'll see you in the next video.